I was spoiled and that was very nice. Normal people who have dated famous people, how was it like? Friend of a friend is engaged to Jonah Hill. He's a nice guy, they travel a lot, he obviously is pretty wealthy but funny, relatively normal. Doesn't love the spotlight, he went to a college graduation and everyone made such a big deal that he was there and tried to take pictures that he had to leave because he just wanted to support his girlfriend's sister. Family friend dated Juliet from Lost for a while. He said it was really tough to be in public with her because she would get swarmed. She apparently really loved walking dogs and actually took our dog on a walk one time when she visited. She loved being in the middle of nowhere apparently. She was exceptionally nice though, and we talked a lot about the Red Sox, which was cool for young me. I dated a well-known news anchor for about a few months which was based out of NYC. To be fair, I had no clue who he was and his first introduction should have been a massive red flag. We met in a bar in NYC during a private fundraising event for charity a few years ago. Him: "Hi, do you know who I am?" Me: "Should I?" Him: looks at me a bit bewildered, and tells me his name. I give him the same face back, after which he tells me which channel he's on. That initial interaction should have told me to get the fuck out of there, but he was good looking enough that I ignored his initial narcissism. During the course of the relationship, he learned next to nothing about me or what I do for a living and barely scratched the surface on my likes or dislikes. I'm not sure if he's on TV anymore, but I know he's no longer on that channel. I dated the drummer from a very popular band, and moonlighted for two other very popular bands, for about a year. He went on tour and I was in college so it didn't work out, but we're still really close friends and talk frequently. He never signed anything for me because he always said, "I only sign stuff for people I'll never see again." He says that still, and it's kind of cool because we see each other every now and then since we live relatively close to each other. It was fun showing up with him to my friends' birthdays and stuff. They were all kind of starstruck, because they loved one of the really huge bands, and he would turn on the charm and make it special. He is a good sport about that sort of thing. Not me, but my cousin married a football player for the St. Louis Rams, and whenever they came over to our family gatherings it was so awkward because we didn't want to be too chills around him, but we also didn't want to fan out on him. I didn't date a famous person, but a famous person's son. I was spoiled and that was very nice. Dinners out all the time, expensive gifts. Half of my purses now are high-end ones that his mom just didn't want anymore or got as presents from people buttering up her husband. When I was out with his family, his dad was often stopped and recognized by people. The relationship didn't work out because my ex, son of the famous person, was afraid of moving out of his parents' house and losing their financial support. He ended up cheating on me. A friend of mine dated Misha Barton while she was filming the pilot for the OC. They were fairly serious. Lots of actors in LA film pilots, so we were all just this group of young hopefuls who played pool and drank together. Well, the show got picked up and was a hit and they broke up almost immediately. It was like she disappeared to another planet. My buddy was just as bummed as anyone would be to get dumped by a beautiful woman that they were really into. We were talking about how sad he was about it while grocery shopping one day, and when we got to the checkout, her face was on the cover of 3 or 4 magazines. We had a laugh, but I felt for the dude. I dated for 3 months a famous digital influencer here in Brazil and it was terrible. Every single moment I had a camera on my face and he was so fake with his followers. His 10-12-year-old fans sent me hate messages on Instagram threatening me for posting stories with him. Never again. I dated a guy who had a lot of international success in the late 90s. He hit me up on Instagram. He's still an A-list celebrity in my country and he's a very nice guy, but he's clearly been affected by not having been told no for 20 years. During both our first 2 dates he asked if we could watch him on TV. He hadn't seen the final product and wanted to know how he did. That was a little weird. I eventually called it quits because even though we just dated casually, I heard through the grapevine that he got around and I don't like to share. My so dated Rosario Dawson, very briefly. He says nothing came of it, they just didn't click. So now I am the woman that surpassed Rosario Dawson in both looks and charming personality. Not me, and this is from a while ago, but a friend's sister dated Max Baer Jr., Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies. They parted on good terms. He is a super nice guy, smart and kind. He could not come to the sister's wedding but sent a nice letter and an extremely generous gift. I, female, Dated a famous guitarist whose band was big in the 2000s. Still is, but that was their prime. Anyways, he was sweet but like most, a cheater. He just seemed lost all the time also as to what he even wanted or who he even was. Even after we split and seeing him go through all these relationships and then a marriage/divorce, he still seems unhappy as hell. I hope he gets his shit together eventually. I dated a now very famous cosplayer about 5 years ago. Back then she had around 150k Instagram followers, now she has around 600k I believe. Those 150k were bad enough. She posted one picture of us together about 3 months into the relationship. Just us smiling together on a date. I received personal DMs and comments on my Instagram, even after our relationship ended about 6 months later, hundreds upon hundreds of death threats, on account of not being good enough in the eyes of her weeb fans. Dong pics from men who wanted me to know that their thing would satisfy her more than mine. Repeated spam comments on any and all pictures I had personal friends and family tagged in so they would get notifications for every single one. Our relationship ended because she moved across the country and I couldn't commit to that, but her insane fans were a contributing factor to that lack of commitment. Not a life I wanted. Even after she deleted the picture and I made my Instagram private, I still dealt with thousands of follower requests, these people finding my Twitter/Facebook, and so on for a good year or two after we broke up. Only the men though. A lot of her female fans would leave nice comments. I know someone whose mom dated Gordon Ramsay before she met her dad. Apparently, he's a really nice guy. TV stuff seems to be a persona to drive people to exceed. About 7 years ago, my brother's fiancée went out on a couple of dates with Andrew Shaw from the Chicago Blackhawks. She said he was kind of boring and narcissistic. But he gave her 2 center ice tickets to come to see him play at the United Center. She invited my brother, who is a huge sports fan. That was their first date. So I dated an IG influencer back in college. Not famous, but girls would recognize her in the streets, NYC. It was fine at first, but we couldn't even get a drink at the bar without people coming up to her for a selfie. And the guys were beyond creepy. I would often catch men, middle-aged mostly, just staring her down. I called out a few and they left us alone after that. Anyway, social media dictated her happiness. We would be having a great time and she would completely lose it because her video only got X amount of likes. I eventually broke it off because of the stress her career had on the relationship. TLDR, go outside and enjoy nature and stay off social media. My friend used to date the actress Felicity Jones when we were all about 18 years old. I met her at a few parties and she was genuinely really lovely and personable. This was around the time she was in a UK TV show called Tipping the Velvet and there was a scene where she was topless. We'd all seen it of course because someone we knew was getting famous and had got naked on screen. Most of our group of friends just played it super cool and never mentioned that scene. One of our group though, was super starstruck at a party we were all at, got really drunk, totally blabbered and gushed about how much he loved her acting and mentioned her tits a few times in rapid succession. The guy she was dating had to ask him to leave, and he did, but not before vomiting all over the shoes in the hallway as he tried to put his on. Anyway, she was really sweet and as far as I'm aware they ended things on good terms because they ended up going to universities far away from each other. I haven't dated a celebrity, but my mother-in-law is a famous celeb. She's surprisingly down to earth as is her son, my husband. She actually hates the fame part of her career path and the fact that she can't go anywhere unrecognized. She can't leave her home without looking great at all times. Makeup, hair, carefully selected outfit. When we go out with her, people stare a lot. I'm very aware of it but she and her son don't notice it anymore. Fans are very polite but they do interrupt frequently for selfies or to start conversations with her. She is polite but tries her best to send them off quickly. It can get invasive and frustrating, especially when you're just trying to have a meal, conversation or run errands. We have been harassed by paparazzi a few times in our outings, especially when she was dating another very famous celebrity. During that time, I had to make sure I looked my best too because I was showing up in photos and videos. She invited other well-known celebrities to our wedding. Congratulatory messages and photos were printed in national magazines and television shows. The main benefit is that when we are with her, we get VIP treatment everywhere we go. We get the best service. We are prioritized at restaurants, get complimentary desserts, are upgraded to the best suites at hotels, and so on. She herself is often upgraded to first class on planes. People will bend over backward for her and we get to take in the benefit of that. On a one-on-one, it's completely normal with her, like with any other mill. I often forget she's a celeb and only remembers when she starts being hounded for selfies. My ex-boyfriend's step-aunt apparently dated James Franco in the 90s. Said they broke up because he was a womanizer and a cheater. But who knows if that's true. I dated a famous guitar player before he was famous. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to link my account with my real life for obvious reasons. I broke up with him because I didn't want to be in a relationship with a famous person and I didn't want to hamper his success. I didn't like the role of being a musician's girlfriend. There were always lots of girls who wanted to get around him after shows and I didn't want to have to share my life with the public and he did, plus his career made having a normal dating life hell. He was regionally famous when we were together. The last straw for me was going out on my birthday for dinner and to see a show. He got invited up on stage to play a song with the band and I was left standing around by myself, once again having to play the supporting role when I just wanted one day that would be about what I wanted. I just wanted to have some cheesecake and do a little dancing. I think it's weird to see this person as a public figure. He's starting to age and is getting past his prime, which is even weirder. He became famous relatively young and now he's starting to look worn out. I hope he's happy and I'm happy for him. People used to act like I was crazy for breaking up with him on the cusp on him becoming famous and I was just like shrug. Fame dating wasn't fun for me and I see why so many celebrity couples break up. It's a hard life and it makes normal stability hard. My mother dated an A-list singer in the 80s who is now still fairly famous, probably a B+ list now. He was supposedly the worst driver she ever encountered, but other than that pretty nice. Her boss at the time had 2 daughters who really loved him, so he dropped off a bunch of signed merchandise and talked her boss into promoting her. She didn't take the pressure wonderfully. They got mobbed once or twice in public and she once caught photographers in front of my grandma's house. His parents made them break up because she wasn't the right religion. Despite being at that time one of the biggest names, his parents still controlled him. My mom went to one of his concerts a few years ago hoping she could bump into him, but it didn't happen. Apparently, security had heard the "I used to date him" line before. I went out with some guy who considered himself a vlogger. I spent so much time trying to look good on camera and pretending to look different. Talk about faking things. Left him after 4 weeks. I dated a now famous YouTuber for 6 years. We were together for 4 years before his career took off, but once it did our entire relationship became a sort of fodder for his channel. Even his proposal, which was sweet but awkward and stilted, was taped from start to finish and once edited came out looking like the most gorgeous, romantic thing. I remember reading through his IG and YouTube comments obsessively as strangers gushed about shipping us and how we were this amazing couple, and half of me using it as a justification to stay in it and the other half thinking if only you knew how miserable we really are. After we broke up he deleted almost every shred that we were ever together off his accounts except one video of us. Maybe once a year I'll go back and watch it to remind myself of who I was then and because his cinematography is goddamn gorgeous. I met my now husband a week after we broke up. We started dating 9 months later and got married 9 months after that. Everything just felt more natural with him and like what love actually feels like, not just what it looks like on the surface. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.